I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I'm Tony Russo, no relation. And all sorts of fun stuff as always this week. I was just saying to Todd, I'm a little bleary-eyed. I had a very, very, very long, debauched Labor Day weekend. I was in New Jersey, and I just don't ever behave myself, even kind of. It's like, yeah, sure, scotch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, why not?
Yep.
Because the rules, it's like there are no rules in New Jersey. And so I just looked at my face, and I look really old and haggard. I look even older and haggarder than I feel, which is kind of amazing. But before we get to me and all my shenanigans, let's get to you and your shenanigans. What did you get up to this past weekend?
We had a leisurely day, weekend, even not a whole lot of work that we were doing, and just kicked around building a fire pit. We're getting ready for our beer tasting party that's coming up next month. So we're kind of redoing the Outback, but had a nice day out on the water. Our friend Aaron has a little pontoon boat, and man, if we in the United States didn't invent the art of leisure, I don't know what. And to have a vessel to drive across the water a couple hundred yards to be on your own little private beach is pretty fun. And it's even more fun when you have friends who have the vessel and gas it up and take you, and you don't have to do anything other than just show up and have a good time. But that's what we did. We went out and lived it up without the kids for the last day of summer before school started today. So that's us.
And there is something special about being without the kids, and it's almost you almost feel guilty for having as much fun as you do. All of my children had plans for this weekend, and that's probably one of the reasons that my weekend in Jersey was almost a complete shit show, because I had no kids, I had no responsibilities, and it was just amazing. We went. They have this one place in Keyport, New Jersey, that's right out on the water, and we watched the Mets game, and we stopped in to get a beer just to get out of the house, and we were there all night.
Yeah. Beer turns into 10.
The night ended with me. I cracked open a beer when I got back to my folks' house because my wife went to bed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, kind of collect myself before I try to lay down. I opened the beer. I got a little bowl of cashews, something that was food to put on my stomach. And I drank some of the beer, and then I got up. I'm thinking I may have gotten up to go to the bathroom. I don't remember this part, but I didn't get up to go to bed. But then I was in bed. Normally, I took my eyeglasses off and I put my rings on my eyeglasses when I go to bed, and I put them in a safe place. And then I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I said to myself, someplace there's a freshly opened beer.
Yeah.
And it's not here next to me. So that was a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun to get out and to blow off a little steam. But now all the fun is over, and it's time to get back to work. And I was thinking about this morning, how weird it is that even though we're not in school anymore, even me professionally as a newspaper reporter, I know I'm going to start being able to get people on the phone now.
Right.
All summer, it's oh, I'm on vacation. But it's like today, everybody's like, okay, we're grown-ups again. And we don't even get to pretend that we're not grown-ups during the week anymore, or even on the weekends, really. It's right. Back to business. And it's kind of an odd phenomenon. I don't know if it's because of where we are, or
I think it might be a little bit because of where we are. Because there's so much, you live at the beach or you live close to the resort area, and you have people that come down. So there's always an excuse to partake in some fun.
Even when you're working.
Yeah. Or it's my job.
Right. Absolutely.
But
But you've got some grown-up type things coming up in the next week or so, getting ready for football season.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I feel the same way. School starts and you get back on a schedule, get back on a routine, and it's good for everybody. Obviously, a lot of focus on the Starboard for the summer, and they're still open through the through to towards the end of November, and then converts over to the Shark Tank, all of that. But the new business, Nick's Fish House, which is up in Baltimore, which is right there under the Hanover Bridge, Port Covington area, which is going to be revitalized because of Under Armour basically setting up their whole campus there. But one of the things that they're doing is Justin Tucker, who I had to explain to you is the kicker for the Baltimore Ravens, which is a professional football team.
Yes.
He does a post-game show. I think a lot of these guys do this, in different areas. But he's going to be doing his show from Nick's Fish House every week. And actually, starting early this week. The season gets underway on Thursday, but I guess they're getting one under their belt because they're going to be traveling next week. But so that's kind of fun. Natalie gets to go up there, and I know she doesn't mind. He's a handsome fellow, apparently. But she'll go up there and hopefully meet up with the production crew that's going to be doing the show, and getting some good pictures and getting the word out there, because it's a great advertising thing for Nick's, and it's been doing well. So the focus from the beach on that side of the business to Baltimore to kind of extend the summer season,
right?
Is what we're helping out with.
I don't completely understand the logistics of it. So when you say post game, it's like, will he won't be doing it on Sundays? He'll be doing it on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It will be on Tuesday evenings. Yeah.
Right.
Your original question. Well, doesn't he have to work?
Yeah.
So it will be on Tuesday evenings, and it will be a breakdown and talking about, the game. So this will be, I'm sure today will be, and there's like a little meet and greet, so you get people out there, you get a live studio audience, and it's just him and, some other sports guys talking about sports. Like there isn't enough of that in the world. So it's, it'll be neat. It'll be an interesting thing. And, I think I think when you get a kicker involved, you have a little bit more, maybe more intellectual conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not making a generalization, but
No. Kickers have to be prepared to not work. Like, if you are like, kickers are the kinds of people who say, well, I'll do this football thing, but, I'll also be a heart surgeon, when my career is over. Whereas they're not like, no offense intended, but many of our lineman friends are like, holy Christ, I hope I can sack enough money away before my knees go, because all I did in college was drink and play football.
Right.
But kickers tend to be a little bit more advanced. Quarterbacks as well tend to be a little bit more advanced than that. A little bit more forethinking. One of the things that I wanted to talk about briefly when you were saying that is, and it just occurred to me, the whole idea about the difference between like Ronco, right?
Yeah.
And this. There's like, what, newsvertorial? Is that a word? Did I just make that up?
Yeah, that could be. I'll go with that.
Right? It's because it's not flat dead advertorial. It's not you are paid to say this, but it is like, this is where we're doing this event, or this is the sponsor of this event, and we're going to talk about this thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a new way to approach branding and getting your name out there, as opposed to just like, we sell soap. Isn't this soap great? Oh, this soap is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, obviously that's what our ongoing conversation is, because like the article I mentioned off air, and as far as native advertising and the death of banner ads, this great article, and that you should check out in the Atlantic about can mommy bloggers still make money? Mm-hmm. And they're talking about like back in the day, like click-through rates for banner ads were ridiculous, like 78%.
Right.
People would click through, and it was part of that. It's just like, oh wow, the internet is cool. Look what I can do.
Right.
And now they're talking about it's as bad as like less than 1%, and then, the ongoing conversation that you and I have about the native advertising, and, how to, write stories that are authentic, but also bring up a brand and make you, appreciate it and that sort of thing are much more, are they're going to be spending millions of dollars industry wide on those type of ads versus banner ads.
Well, and I wonder how much banner ads were hurt by the, I don't know, public revelation. Although if you don't know this, it's your own fault. But like, oh wow, they're really taking down the fact that I clicked on this ad and now they know more about me than they used to.
Yeah,
that's a factor now. I think when people choose to not. I know we talked about this also in the past, but it's a factor for me. It's like I don't want them to think that I'm the type of person that is impressed by this ad, so I'll ignore it.
Right.
And then Google it later.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I do any searching for any equipment or anything that I'm looking to do, I always do it in an incognito window. And, it's funny, I posted the other day, like, damn it, I accidentally clicked on a promotional ad. And now, even though it's from a place that I love, I'm going to be, getting bombarded with all this stuff for that, like you're saying, because now they know that little bit about me. And I want that, I want to be surprised by the people who are marketing towards me,
Right, exactly. And for me, I do a lot of research for stories. So my searches and my ads are just bizarre. It's just
right.
It's just like I'm writing a lot. Like if I'm writing a health story, then I'll get colon cancer solutions for 6 months, and it's just. I love that, and so they can't really get a beat on me. What's really me, and what's just me, using keywords to search for facts.
You're throwing off red herrings left and right.
Absolutely, to put into stories.
The thing that Google knows about me most of all is that I don't know how to spell. Because the majority of my searches are single words that
they're right.
It's like, did you mean? And I'm like, yes, that's what I meant.
I do that as well. I'm not ashamed to. Yeah. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm not what you'd call a good speller. I can write okay, but sometimes my spelling is not what it could be. So, and it's what it is I get so distracted that like I'll put a word down that's like I'll be typing and I'll look a red line and I'll go and I'll click at it and the spell check's like, well, I have no idea what it is. So instead of me trying to guess until the spell check's right, I just highlight it. And I throw it into the Google search because that knows right away. They're like, yes, of course, everyone types it like this because you're all fucking stupid. And then we throw it back on the, and then I throw it right back on the page and cruise right along.
And away we go. And do you do that while you're writing both good news and bad news?
Yeah. So this week, we'd like to try and debut a good news, bad news section. I do not know if it'll work. I do not know if I'll remember to do it for next week, but I remembered to do it for this week, and that's kind of the thing. For now, I'm going to use my own writing where available, and also the Dispatch because I hate them the least. Although I will try to use some of the other newspapers where applicable. I have a problem with some of the larger papers. Not that the Dispatch isn't a large paper, but I got a kick out of their story, so I wanted to talk about that. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about one that I wrote that appeared in the Laurel and Seaford Stars about a guy who went on a trade mission to China and Korea, I think. South Korea, Vietnam, Southeast Asia. He's a soybean farmer, and apparently the soybean, whatever the business thing, the U.S. Soybean Council or whatever, it's like a nonprofit that promotes soybeans, and it lobbies the government, and they do these trips, like they go all over the world to where people buy soybeans.
Is it like the Trade Federation from Star Wars?
It very much is like the Trade Federation from Star Wars. I have something to say about that. All right, let's put this aside for a second. I don't think there's anyone, I'm sorry, I'm sure there are lots of people. I'm not going to be among them. I'm going to revisit all the Star Warses before the new Star Wars comes out.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. All that horrible trade shit that everybody's making fun of is still going to be like, if you have watched the movies recently and get what the trade issue is.
Yeah.
I think you'll get more out of the new movie.
Really? Okay.
It's just a guess based on a couple of other things I've heard where, you know, and I don't even remember them because I don't know if I mentioned, but I literally drank all weekend. But at one point there was a conversation about something somebody saw spoiler-wise in one of the new trailers, and something about the toys, the new toys that came out.
Oh yeah.
Did you get any?
I haven't. No, I wanted to follow the Force Friday more closely because I thought that was a great marketing ploy.
Right.
You know, but no, didn't really. So
my friend Keith was actually online with his brother at midnight on Thursday.
Oh wow.
To get toys, and he made lots of comments such as, if you didn't see the first one in the theater, you should have to be at the end of the line.
Yeah. That's a good one.
and he said he was nervous because they were clearly the oldest people online, like by decades. You know, there were many people who didn't even see the first one in the new episode 1, the new first one in the theaters. He's like, that's how much older I was than everybody there. But anyway, so he was talking about certain spoilers that he thought he picked up from new toys, and from the new trailer, and that made me think, oh, I'll bet that Trade Federation stuff that everybody's making fun of is gonna play a role.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to say that out loud because I don't even remember if I said it out loud to him or not, but I just wanted to go on record. I think that's a fact. So anyway, the soybean trade mission to China. The guy who went, his name is Rick Dickerson, and he's a local soybean farmer, cool guy. I got to meet him and interview him. He is 6'5", 300 pounds.
Oh, fun. Big
freaking guy. And he showed me pictures, like strangers were coming up to him to take their picture with him, like girls mostly, like, ooh, look at me, and they have like their hand up over their head and it's still not to his shoulder. And
yeah.
So they got a huge kick out of that. But a part of my research, and hold on to your hats because this is true, and it just made my head hurt a little bit. China buys 25% of all the soybeans we grow in the United States.
25%?
25%.
So we ship soybeans to China?
We ship a quarter of our soybeans to China. We might ship half of our soybeans, or maybe more than half, out of the country.
That's amazing.
Just a staggering amount.
That's like when you taught me that we send muskrat pelts to Russia.
Right, exactly. It's all this trade stuff going on here in Delmarva. And if I could get someone to just pay me to write about Delmarva international trade, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. But the other fascinating thing was he was there, and they didn't go to a lot of soybean places. They went and they met soybean people, but they also went and they looked at other manufacturing. China has aquaculture is big in China because they have so many people, and making sure that there's food for them is important. And so they use a lot of soy. They use it to feed their pigs and chickens as well as to eat. But he went to an aquaculture center that employed, and again, I'm glad you're sitting down, 800 people boning filet full time. Like 800 people just processing the fish by hand full time.
Wow.
That
800
is
people?
800 people in a building. So imagine Stephen Decatur is a fish factory, and everyone is in Stephen Decatur 12 hours a day, cranking out fish after fish after fish, like the crab picking, except full time and on a massive, massive scale. He's like, it was staggering. It was staggering.
That's scary. That's where you get worried about the industrialization of food, because you have all of those moving parts and quality control, and I don't know.
And that's what he said. He's like, they made a big deal out of showing us quality. He's like, but one guy, like, he had on like a radiation suit, but he wasn't wearing shoes. Like, he didn't bring his shoes to work that day or something. So So he said he was skeptical about it. And I have got to say, I go back and forth. I mean, practically speaking, aquaculture is at least not a strain on the environment the way like taking all of the fish out of the ocean and eating them in a week is.
Yeah.
So I do go back and forth on how that on how that works practically, you know, on whether or not that's.
What kind of fish are they? What kind of fish do they?
I think like probably white fish of some sort, tilapia or one of them. I know that we get a lot of them. And, you know, I guess, you know, deep fry it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sear it. You know, I wouldn't turn it into sushi unless you bought it fresh.
Right.
But yes, so fascinating stuff. And this guy he's got a farm stand here in Laurel, you know, and they sent him away just to the other part that I thought was especially interesting for our podcast was how important it was for the consumers to meet the farmers, like the people, like the business executive types who are buying all of this soy, they still want to meet the people who are growing it and like look them in the eye and saying, you know, don't send us poison kind of thing. You know, It's not really like that, but it was important for them to, you know where your food comes from. It's still on this industrial level. And that, you know, because a lot of times I think both rightly and wrongly, you know, these massive farmers get a bad rap, but like, they're like, we want to meet the people who make our food. And he wants to go out and say, look, I'm making good food. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
With what I have. And so the whole big agriculture, I don't want to say I'll say gets kind of a bad rap, you know. I mean, some of it they earn themselves, and some of it they don't. And to see how, like, when he was talking, he wasn't talking to me as like a slow food, local food type person. He was just talking to me as a regular guy, and he's telling me what he does. And, you know, he does have a farm stand and he sells stuff that he grows, and, you know, but he's got a foot, and a lot of these guys do. And I think that's why it gets so gray. They have one foot in the local market and one foot in the international market. Right. And especially around here, that's an interesting give and take that I don't know if we appreciate as much as we ought.
Well, it turns out that a lot of people are just trying to make a decent living and and you know, don't have nefarious plans to take over the world by becoming farmers. I don't think that that's, you know,
right,
villain list of occupations. I think that's pretty low on the pecking order.
Yeah, and when we get all worked up, or when people get all worked up, you know, this is the world that we bought. You know, when you don't want a $1 hamburger, then the farmers will stop selling you, you know, $1 hamburgers. But, you know, we are lowering we're raising the bar and lowering the standards. Yeah. And that's not fair to anybody.
We want it all, and we want it all right now, and we want it the best.
We want the world, and we want it now.
So is that the good news or the bad news?
That's the good news. It's just cool that there's someone here that's going. The bad news, and it's not real bad news, it's just poor news, I guess, is they're changing the auto events in Ocean City. Did you see anything about this?
Yeah, is this about they're trying to ban the drinking in parking lots or something like that?
Yeah, they're clamping down a little bit to make it less fun to have car shows in Ocean City.
Which having car shows in Ocean City, the shows aren't the problem. It's the people that come to the shows that are the problem. Well, and I shouldn't say that. I should say it's the people who the non-participants in the car shows that just clog the streets and litter and treat the wonderful town of Ocean City much like it's their very own trash can.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're. I gotta say, I'm almost for this. Okay, so thinking of places like Dewey, and Bethany and Rehoboth, you know, I think a lot of times Ocean City might look around and say, you know, again, if we raise our standards, you know, if we want one guy to spend $100 rather than 100 guys to spend $1,
Yeah.
and we behave like that, maybe it'll happen. Maybe they're not afraid of losing the less interesting business to Virginia Beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go to Virginia Beach and let them spend, because the city's side of the expense isn't worth it to them. I mean, the city could stop cutting taxes every 14 seconds, and that might help. But given that they have a commitment to not ever collecting tax, they've got to find a way to not spend so much money on these events, on the repercussions of these events.
Yeah.
So I haven't covered this, and I'm reading Sean Soper, who's a good guy. He's not generally very succinct. Actually, this is Joanne Schreiner, and I don't even know who she is. Just because I don't pay attention. It's not anybody else's fault. Like I said, I'm just slowly getting back into the Worcester County news.
One of the things that I thought somebody had made a comment, which I think is pertinent, is so you're basically creating another ordinance, and there are already plenty of ordinances that you could, sound, noise ordinance, and pollution, and there's 100 other things that they could be enforcing already.
Right.
Why not just enforce those instead of saying, here's yet another one,
Oh, and that's what I'm kind of getting at, because that means keeping on the summer help longer.
Yeah.
That means more cops writing more tickets that they then have to come back and be in court for. And, that's where it's getting more expensive than the money that they're getting back for it in fees. And that's where I think they get a little concerned. So that's bad-ish news. But again, I'm not 100% convinced that a move by Ocean City to be more competitive with the Delaware beaches. They're always like, we have to get rid of sales tax because sales tax is why people go to the Delaware beaches. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been to the Delaware beaches. I can tell you that it's not because my hermit shell crab is $1 instead of $1.06.
Yeah. We revisit it often, but the comparison from Parks and Recs of Ocean City being Pawnee and the Delaware beaches being Eagleton is just so accurate. It's astounding.
And so hopefully they're going to make these changes for the better and not for the worse. I think every time a city council makes new laws, it's almost certainly a mistake. They do it quickly. They do it without thinking. I've been at so many of these meetings where one guy comes, he screams, and then the city council jumps, and then they have to jump back because everybody else comes back and screams the next week.
Yeah.
So that's whether procedurally they're doing the right thing. I don't know. Attitudinally, it might be good. I don't know. Like, if they want to take their city back, this might be the way to do it. I think that Ocean City could stand to go back to go back 2 or 3 steps where it's just a higher, like I said, fewer people spending more money.
Yeah.
Because as the income gap, those are your choices. The fewer people spending more money.
Yeah. And it definitely, the comments that I've heard this year about the people that are coming to Ocean City have, and I hate to sound like the old guy, standing on my front lawn shaking my fist. And, it's probably a little bit exaggerated, but it definitely seems that the clientele that's coming is getting worse and worse, and trashier, ghetto-ier, and all of that. It's the ghettoification, not gentrification, ghettoification of our beloved Ocean City.
Yeah, and I think, but I think that they're reaping what they sowed. I think they went big on this a long time ago, and we've discussed this 1,000 times before. They have too much space that they need to have filled, and they can't fill it for the prices they want to fill it based on the entertainment they're providing. And there you go. Like, I can't afford Rehoboth Beach, but I can afford Ocean City. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it may be a long transition, but eventually, I'm sure that they'll get it. And speaking of Ocean City doing classy things, Beer Festival October 24th is I think already a go.
Nice.
Oktoberfest, Toberfest in
Northside Park.
Northside Park. I don't know if tickets are on sale yet. No, tickets aren't on sale yet, but it's a real thing is the point. Surecraftbeer.com, where I blog from, is sponsoring it, co-sponsoring it with the city, and I think I'll be speaking. So they told me to block that day off and plan on being there. So
there's nothing better than hearing yourself talk, or nothing you love more.
I love it.
That's great.
And so we are way over time already. So let me get to you. What do you got? What do you got coming up? You got stuff?
Well, like I said, we're look for Justin Tucker photos and promotion, and then I'm headed to New York. I'm headed to the big city this week to for a job that will be interesting. Will probably be more interesting in my travels around the big city, like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, versus anything else. But other than that, we're sliding into fall, and I got nothing.
Oh, cool. Well, then may Todd give you the sense to live in a small town.
We'll see you next week at Coffee Hour.
Coffee breakfast.